Should Shane Van Gisbergen be in the NASCAR playoffs this year? By the rules, yes. The rules are that he has to be a full-time driver, attempt every race, or at least try to attempt every race, and win or make it in off of points if he gets high enough. Shane Van Gisbergen fits all of that, and unless he doesn't attempt one of the next 10 races, he will fit that criteria entering into Daytona and then Darlington and so on. I guess roll credits. But I think we all know what people mean when we're asking this question. We don't mean based on the rules. I think everyone understands what the rules are. I think the question is more a question of the rules themselves. I think what people are asking is based off of performance or lack thereof overall. Should Shane Van Gisbergen be in the NASCAR playoffs? I think that is a much more compelling question and much more, I'd say, clear to what people are actually asking. Shane Van Gisbergen was 33rd in the NASCAR Cup Series points entering the race in Mexico. Of the full-time drivers that he races against every week, he was only ahead of Cole Custer in a Haas factory machine car that we all knew was going to suck, Riley Herbst, who has been rushed up to Cup and does not belong this high, and Cody Ware. Yeah. A guy 33rd entering this race leapfrogged 23 other guys who have been out-competing him all year and completely erased a catastrophically horrible season. And I think that a lot of people are having the argument that a guy who's 33rd or now 30th in the points should not be guaranteed a spot to compete for a championship over an entire season. I think a lot of people may also say, well, we need to reward winning, and a win now is rewarded more than ever. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think that especially for those drivers who are really bad all year, winning is overvalued in the regular season. People, yes, want to be rewarded for a win and want wins to be rewarded more. That's what the teams wanted when this was put in place. But the reward is a win. You don't just win a cup race willy-nilly. Yes, he won by damn near 17 seconds over the competition. That's amazing. And a full disclaimer, this is not meant in any way to take away from SVG. He kicked ass. He deserves his win, and he does not make the rules. He deserves none of the hate that a lot of people are lobbing at him. But this is why he is an easy lock for the 88 moving forward. Not because he's good across a multitude of different types of racing circuits, not because he's versatile past the road courses. It's because as long as winning your in is still there will be the opportunity for him and others to get a ride. There's way too much money to be gained by making the NASCAR playoffs to replace him. Why would you replace him, say, with someone like Connor Zilic, who's going to have a learning curve and probably take a few years, when you can cash in easily, one, on a couple of wins in big road course races, but also for the fact that when he gets those wins, you get a hefty bonus for making the NASCAR playoffs. Plus, if you're Trackhouse and, say, Suarez manages to get a win, or Ross Chastain gets in like he is more often than not prone to do, you're getting a lot of money compared to a lot of other teams on your level. This is where I think the SVG question has kind of come in. Many compare him, say, to Harrison Burton at Daytona last year. He was 34th in the points coming into that race. He won a super speedway race, which I honestly say is more damning just because that's not as talent based as a road course. And now you have the same conversation from that race all over again on X, YouTube, Instagram, Reddit, you name it. Everybody talking about the same damn thing, except this time we are in the middle of June, just like in 2024, where we're already questioning why we're even doing this. So Lee Diffie of NBC got into a war on X, formerly known as Twitter, with a different user and a couple of users over this topic, over the fact that SVG should or should not be in the NASCAR playoffs. And he compared NASCAR to the PGA, which in my opinion is kind of like an apples to zucchini comparison. Yeah, they're both plants. They, I think, actually are a little more comparable than, say, football, basketball, baseball, or NHL. But even with the more even comparison, it still is the classic reference to the stick and ball sport argument. And I think that there's some things you can compare it with, whether it be marketing, whether it be personality or whatnot. But when it comes to the brass tacks on the racetrack, I don't think you can do that. I think it is a fundamentally flawed argument. And I think that when people bring up that argument, you really tend to lose about 90% of the time right off of the bat with that. And I think he is in the same boat. And you've had past drivers weighing in both this week and in the past on this subject. For instance, Richard Petty actually went a little viral for his response about the issue. Granted, more about the road course side of it, which I think is the nothing burger part of it, but more for what he thinks of NASCAR and the qualification to run well in NASCAR. And hey, when the king speaks, we listen.
The way they got this thing fixed, if you win and you in, that can't be right. From the standpoint that you got somebody, like say, that's 30th in the points that's going to make the playoffs. Hey, man, what happened to the guy that's 15th or 16th or 18th? Been running good, finished good everywhere. You're making a championship situation by winning a road course, which is not really NASCAR to begin with. So from that standpoint, I think they're going to have to jockey around and change some of this kind of stuff.
And Mark Martin went on a bit of a tangent about this whole subject as well on X, reposting even the poll that he put up a while back, asking what people wanted from their championship system. And you know what? I get that he's very old school with it, but the guy knows what he's talking about. He knows the sport inside and out. And a lot of people who know the sport inside and out are getting sick of the similar arguments, or at least the direction that the sport has gone in with the. Recently on Action's Detrimental, Denny, Hamlin, and Kyle Busch both talked candidly about the system, about how it's broken and how they would improve it. And they even talked about how a full season championship would be preferably what they would want to compete under when it comes to the way it would be fair, when it comes to the legitimacy of it. Dale Earnhardt Jr. still is all for it as an old school driver and fan of the sport. And the longer that he stays talking on that subject, the longer that, say, a full season championship format is still on the table, I think is the better. Why? Because even if NASCAR doesn't choose that, NASCAR is then at least going the direction further of wanting to be legitimate, wanting to not just go for entertainment, but go for what the fans are asking. And not every fan is asking for a full season points format. A lot are asking for maybe a hybrid of the old school chase or something like that. But I think that this is the direction that needs to be gone in. It's all about now just getting the TV networks on it. And overall, the playoff conversation has brewed back up now in early June, just like in 2024 when it was in late June. And at this point, it just keeps happening earlier and earlier in the season. Even if NASCAR wasn't having a council to change it for 2026, they would need to be doing something about it. Because it used to be later in the playoffs when there were different issues, or maybe the title winner wasn't what people would want. And I get that, and people would be upset by that, but you can play that off. Then it was more earlier in the playoffs, or it was August or so when there were people getting in that really shouldn't have been in there. Now it's the middle of the summer. It's the middle of June. It's where people are just getting sick of it before we're even 10 races to it. And I think that's where you're starting to get the real problem of it, is that if people aren't taking the championship seriously before the halfway point of the season, how can you expect anyone to check in and lock back in with it when you get to the brass tacks of the competition? Now, with so many people getting sick of it, you have to make some kind of change to make people want to watch more. At this point, 2025, for me at least, it's a waiting period. I'm not really getting as angry about the things as I would last year, like Joey Logano getting in off 5 overtimes, or the BS with Daytona and Richmond and all of that, because I haven't cared about the NASCAR championship in a long time as a diehard NASCAR fan, outside of just how it makes the sport look and the lack of legitimacy that it gives the sport anyways. And I cover this sport Every week, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this. I don't care who wins the biggest prize. I and others are just hoping that we get a format where at least the best of the best can compete over the whole season, or at least the best of the best can compete at the end of the season. My pipe dream is a full season format, and I don't think because of the networks it could happen, but I think if NASCAR had to choose, they would choose that. I'd say keep the stage points, keep the fastest lap, keep all of that stuff that you have now, just so you can put the best season together. See if it's somebody that's consistent like Chase Elliott, or wins a lot like Kyle Larson, or is finally going to break through like Denny Hamlin, or William Byron, or Ross Chastain as a wild card. There's so many storylines that could still come out of this. I don't understand how people think that that's not something that could happen. And you know what? If you have a boring championship, that's okay. Sometimes there's blowouts in every sport, in every motorsport. That's what makes the close ones matter. When everything is special, nothing is. And to me, I don't want to see somebody just get hot at the right time after sucking all year. I've seen that in too many times in this format before, and it just cheapens everything. Motorsports is not stick and ball sports. Underdog stories are really great because you have to rise up over a long amount of time to beat the best as an underdog, not just show up and just get lucky. And that's unfortunately what this system promotes: luck, chaos, and just everything in between with all of that. I don't know any better way to put it at this point. So should SVG be in the NASCAR playoffs? I don't think that's the question people should be asking. I think that this is a symptom of a much bigger issue, and it's not something that can be put with a Band-Aid on it, say like inverting the playoffs so you have a wild card race to start in a 3-race final round, or even having a 5-race final round with a bunch of other drivers, or even getting rid of winning you're in. These things are just Band-Aids, in my opinion, to a fundamentally broken problem. The real question is, what should the true barrier of entry be for competing each year? Should it be winning you're in? Should it be the top 16 in the points? Should it be winners only? Maybe the top 12 or top 10 like it used to be, full season format, or something else entirely that we're not even thinking of? I think those are the real questions that need to be asked right now. The SVG thing, I think, is a nothing burger. We all knew this coming into the season, and this is how it would happen, and since it has happened. So with that, I want to know what you think. Let me know down below what you think the true question of the playoffs should be. Do you think SVG should be in? Is that the problem? Or do you think it's more of a fundamental issue? Let me know down in the comments below. Well, all right, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support. And until next time, have a good one.